Hi and good evening, everyone. My name is Albert, and this is VlogsBoutNothin. Thank you for watching my channel, for taking the time out of your night to join me. I really do appreciate that. It's Saturday night, and hopefully, you've earned your weekend. As in, like, you had to grind, and now you're just chilling. And if you're, like, in between an odd date or maybe a weird encounter at the in laws, you stop on in, you have a little break somewhere, you follow the channel or you subscribe, you get a little notification, and then boom, I'm there, right there with you. I'm your friend, your forever friend. That it can be just kept in your pocket. Isn't that weird how we have so many forever friends just right at our discretion? I think that's kind of cool. And I often and talk about sometimes even the loneliness epidemic, but I kind of am more of a optimist than anything. I can be pessimistic or whatever, but I think it's better to be optimistic. And anyways, I feel like it may in fact be time to try and utilize tech to really bond with one another. So far as that goes with getting to meet all these amateur creators and stuff. And hey, if you're new to the channel, this may be catching your attention just like a few weeks from now. Then it's already October and it's close to my birthday. And that'd be kind of cool. So, welcome. Fall has happened. Hopefully, it's not 100 degrees outside still. But nonetheless, we're still here in the middle of September, just getting by. And tonight, I want to talk about some ways that you can deal with stress. All right, link in the description below. We're going to get right into it. There's an interesting video that talks about how diets are essentially all lies, and or just even the kind of approach that one would take to losing weight, in that very definition of what a diet means technically. And so a lot of what makes us who we are, not just on the inside, but a lot on the outside, is stress, right? Hormones and an imbalance of our hormones because of stress. Not to mention all the PFOS and all of the, phthalates and all of the other magical, lovely chemicals brought to us by likes of DuPont and even herbal essence. I mean, I'm just saying that it goes a little bit deeper than just the effects of hormones as a result of being stressed out, and that kind of effect it can have on our physical body. And so here on Vlogs About Nothing, I think a lot of what I've tried to convey over the past few months is that while I'm an avid fan of being a kind of worker that needs to be the kind of worker they need to be within that given time, I also feel like it's best to, take things a little bit easy as well and not stress about things that you can't control. And that's real important. The things that we can ultimately control should be the things that we're focused on. But nonetheless, there's all different types of ways to deal with stress. But it's important to note that, again, link in the description, stress has a lot to do with our diet. And moreover, again, how the diet affects our physical self. I think it's just really important to think about whether or not when we're trying to approach weight loss or when we're trying to, a big part of doing any of that, to even put yourself in the situation to do that, is to remove toxicity, right? And just kind of like be as stress free as possible. And I think that not caring at some point about things that directly impact you but you can't do anything about, and utilizing that uncare to care more about other people and trying to support, their kind of idea just as well as they all embody our own. And I know it sounds like I'm getting off record here or off track, and I'm not, so I'm going to pull us back in, or I'm going to pull myself back in here quickly. Because a lot of these conversations do become, philosophical in nature. The, idea of trying to be stress free and what exactly it is we're supposed to care about. Because obviously, I'm when I say don't care, there's again real things that we should care about and things that we need not care about. And I think that's a real big difference. So there's all kinds of different ways to deal with stress. We can try and exercise. I know that forcing my body to be physical has allowed myself to not be very stressed in what otherwise could be a very stressful situation. Physical exercise is underrated in that anytime life gets like it's too much for me or something is happening, I really just like to go unwind on a basketball court. I feel like my relationship with sports and with basketball in particular is so unique in that I love those things. And by contrast, my love for those activities translate to some real good benefits for my physical body and therefore my stress, right? It's not just Mary Jane helping your boy look like he's 50 when he's only 36. You know, kind of a backhanded comment was that to myself, Albert. See, now I'm feeling a little bit better. It always takes a few minutes to sometimes get in these videos. I had to take a break, so we really went back to back. We went back to back, break, back to back. So that's how tonight's videos have gone. I don't know why I'm not speaking correctly right now, but regardless, let's bring myself back in. So, ways to deal with stress. I mentioned Mary Jane, I mentioned physical activity. These are some of the examples that I can provide because it's what I do when I'm stressed. I also like to read. I really find joy in reading. I know it's kind of nerdy, but and it's different now. I used to read a lot of literature, stories, books, things like that. Now I read a lot of data. I read a lot of just news sources, news stories, articles. I try to remember as much as I can. A big part of what I do here on the show relies a lot on the kind of information that I know about, that I'm made aware of. And so the ways that I deal with stress are to always seek out new information to constantly challenge my own perspective of what my reality is. And I think that's important. It helps me stay on my game. And I think it helps keep me a little bit more in tune with younger people because otherwise it's real easy to get lost in the age game, and I really don't want to ever do that because I just want to collab and be good. You feel me? So I'm trying to also refrain from saying certain catchphrases that I've noticed myself saying. This often is very cyclical on the channel. There's archive, there's there's many videos and we go through this process and it's a routine thing and it's a cycle. So we're nearing the end of this most recent cycle of my continuance in wanting to use certain phrases at the end of all of my statements. That's what I'll say. So, there are many different ways to deal with stress. People garden, people play video games, people do a lot of things, but whatever it is that you do, always make sure that you're never overdoing it. There's always too much of anything, including good things. So you definitely want to be able and understand the risks that you take from the activities you choose to do to not be stress free, meaning that they are still inherently full of risk. Being physically active requires an understanding of safety and an expectation of performance that can only be achieved through the practice of safety. So there's some things that you got to understand first, and I think we all get that when we get it, if that makes sense. But there are a lot of things that you can do at home to stay stress free. My recommendation is to stop caring about the things that you can't control in your own personal life, be it a reputation, be it, and that's mostly what it is. In the normal middle class, working poor world, that's a lot of what constitutes kind of the people that we are and what brings us down. I feel like what our peers and what our family, moreover, and friends think of us. I just also understand that a way to deal with stress is to not worry about what other people, including all of those aforementioned groups, think about you. It's tough because we all want to care about what people think about us. It's just a natural thing. But at some point, I feel like to be completely independent, you really have to stop and only care about being careful to not hurt people's feelings in your own conviction of what you believe to be right. And that's not virtue signaling. Like, in that, if a person is convinced of one thing or another, I mean, gotta respect people always. But I always feel like you need to also respect yourself, in that there are ways of dealing with stress, and a lot of the time, sometimes it's just removing the simple things in our lives that hold us down the most. A lot of time, as statistics would indicate, through divorce rates, it can be our intimate partner. And that's why people like me are single. And that's the underrated thing about being single, is that you're on your own. It's quite difficult and it's not as comfortable. And at some point, you do want a solid partner, but a partner that it's going to work out with, right? Not a partner that you're going to have some type of existential crisis at some point in your life. So, yeah, I feel like there's a lot of ways to mitigate stress. For some of us, it's doing some of the activities that we talked about. And for some of us, it's just by simply staying single and staying away from the drama that these, type of interpersonal relationships with intimate partners can bring, which is sometimes a lot of unneeded stress, honestly. It's one thing to sleep alone, and it's another thing to sleep next to somebody that completely loathes your existence. Take this from somebody who's done both. And most recently, and for most of my life, my adult life, I've done the latter. I'm single, and I think a lot of the time I kick myself for being single and not married and not having a debt trap house with a picket fence and a dog named Jimmy. I don't know, I think I'd have a dog named Jimmy if I were married, had a white picket fence house. I think that's the way it'd play out. It'd also be the same dog from Beethoven, which I've now come to understand as a 36-year-old man is still a movie that really makes me feel like I'm jealous of every kid that was born in a middle upper class suburban neighborhood in the 80s that had really cool minivans or station wagons with wood panels and big homes with garages that were disattached because their homes were so big. Anyways, I hope that you guys are doing really well. That's all I got going on tonight. Just trying to reiterate some advice as to where I can be helpful as it concerns not being stressed. There are a lot of things I've done in my life completely wrong, and I've been pretty open about my mistakes. I feel like that's a big part of who I am. I understand it's also not a big part of who other people are, and I respect that because it's difficult to be so open and accountable, because a lot of times you don't want to be. But I feel like as I get a little bit older and I feel like things are of more value to me before than they were, I really try to just keep stress away from me. And I feel like that's a big part of why I still feel, knock on wood, like relatively healthy. And I feel like that's not an accident. I feel like I'm not accidentally, knock on wood, healthy. I feel like this is more than just a lifestyle choice. It's been a commitment to trying to not be stressed. Because I've been stressed, and, I've, like anyone else, made huge mistakes in that stressful environment. And obviously, I don't expect my life to be completely stress free, and I deal with it as it comes. But I've learned to deal with it and move on. And I think that's an important part of really dealing with our kinds of stress is learning how to deal with it immediately. Just deal with it and then move on. And I think that's a big part of how to deal with stress in the most proper, efficient way. If you don't deal with it, it will never go away. And I understand that a lot of things feel better tucked away, but at some point, you gotta talk about it. You gotta have the tough conversations. You gotta talk about it. And I hope that you guys are doing very well. Honestly, my life has been every day full of surprises. Sometimes I do my best to not have any surprises, and there's still surprises. So life is something that I'm learning to enjoy from a single person's perspective as I begin to navigate the rebuilding of what I hope to be some kind of semblance of a life. As it concerns, the people around me and my contribution financially and my obligation to pay back debt and be a grown up and face all of the problems that I have either chose not to face because I have not been able to, or because, like all most poor working people, you just can't get an apartment because you were evicted that one time, which, by the way, is troll fodder for anyone who's been with the program for a long time. There's a lot of personal information about my life contained within the 600 and nearly 50 videos that you'll find cataloged happily by this middle aged man here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. You got to be kind of shameless. Otherwise, it would be nearly impossible to do what I do. That's the argument. So I hope that you guys have a really great night. And again, I'm always throwing out good vibes your way. You feel me? I mean, the only time I really complain is when I complain and you guys hear about it, and it's never about anything other than how I'm feeling or what I feel like the truth is. But I don't know. I just appreciate you being here with me and giving me your time because you could be anywhere, but you're right here. So thanks so much. And I hope that you guys have a great night. And soon, I hope to find different and better ways to engage with fans and subs and viewers in a more appropriate and a third party way through Patreon. So we'll be pushing the Patreon here a lot really soon. Don't get used to the non solicitation videos because they're going to come up real soon here, real quick. I hope that you guys take care. Bye.